welcome to Tips Over Tea. This is season 2. I am so thrilled to have the opportunity to have great conversations with some amazing people, and I have the opportunity to hang out with you guys again, my guests. Make sure you have your tea, whether it be hot or cold, for the Tips Over Tea, and make sure you have your notebook so you can take plenty of notes, and if you're so inclined, bring a friend or two to join you. For now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Tips Over Tea. I am so glad you're here with us, and I'm thrilled to introduce you to Arman Eckelbarger. He is amazing. I met him last year as part of, we were both part in a coaching program for our businesses, and just hearing his knowledge on men's health primarily, I was like, I need to have him on the show. So, Arman, I would love for you to just introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us the background. How did you get into the hormone health for men and all of that? Start there.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Well, growing up, I was an athlete, so I enjoyed playing basketball. And ironically, I was a small guy. I was 5'5", 120 pounds as a senior, but I was quick and I could make things happen. But then I got out of high school, went to college, and being small like I was, kind of bothered me, and I got picked on as well. So that's when I saw a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger on the cover of a magazine, and I decided, well, looking at that, if I put some muscle on, my dad was in the Marine Corps and he was lifting weights, and so I never really quite understood it all. But I thought, well, if I could put some muscle on, that'd probably be good. And so I started pursuing that, and did that for I've been doing that consistently since, not perfectly, but just doing it on a regular basis. And everything's going really well. I started competing and, winning some shows, but at the same time, I got a lot of second place, third place, because I wasn't going to take drugs, because this is in the 90s. So anyways, my journey led me to just continue just to be natural and eat good and train. And I was in the health and fitness industry for quite a number of years, about 17 years as well. And then I got out of it for a little bit and came back. But what I noticed after having kids, my mid 40s, like 45, 46, the recovery and my energy and things weren't the same. And it kind of just slowly crept up on me. And I was like, well, maybe I'm not eating right. I'm not getting enough sleep. So I started making all these adjustments, and that really was not doing much. And so then my wife one day said, this aging thing sucks. And it's like, yeah, I get you. And then I started thinking about it. Well, how does aging work? And then I started researching. And so as I was researching, then that's when I learned about hormones. And hormones are the messengers that tell your body how to operate. So obviously that's going to be an important element to anything you do in life. And didn't really think about it a whole lot. I mean, my hormones, I think, were very good, but because they're secreted by soft tissue glands, they decline over time. Mm-hmm. And if you're doing things perfectly in a male situation, at the age of 25, your hormones decline about 2% a year. So pretty minimal. You're not going to notice that kind of thing. But over a 20-year period of time, for example, in your 40s, that's a 40% decline in those levels, and then it starts to affect you. So then I just had to start learning that. And it was unfortunately quite a process to learn how that works because of all the poor information that you get out there. And so I had to kind of learn through that because I had my levels checked and they weren't very good. And so I knew I had to make some changes. So that's how that all got started. And then the learning process started happening from there, because when you start adjusting hormones, it's a more complex process than what it's led to be, what they lead you to understand. And most medical doctors, your general practitioner, primary care physician, they are not educated on the complexity of hormones, because there's a lot of hormones. There's not just testosterone and estrogen. There's a lot more than that. So
I believe that. Just in a little bit of, just when I'm studying herbal medicine and contradictions of things, and just, of course, women's health, because I have women come to me with their hormone challenges, and I'm like, I can refer you to someone. I know a little bit, just enough to be dangerous. But so what are some of the, when you're working with men, what are some of the most common challenges that you see outside of testosterone that tend to surprise them, and they're like, wait, what? what are some of those stories?
Well, so some of the common side effects are going to be, lower energy levels, the stamina is not as good, sex drive starts not being where it would normally be, and you're kind of wondering what's going on. And then you start getting some brain fog because you're not thinking as well, and so you kind of go into shutdown mode. Typically, after 2 or 3 in the afternoon, you can't think as well, just because it's not the same amount of things happening in your system. When you're in your 20s and your 30s and, even early 40s, you're kind of bulletproof. If you're doing things right, you're going to feel good and things are happening. But those are some of the things that start to occur. And most people, they just kind of shrug it off. That they'll ask their doctor. The doctor say, well, that's just part of the aging process. Get used to it. Or they may say, okay, well, let's just check your testosterone, see where that's at. And if it's in the range, then you're normal. And that's where a lot of misconceptions happen. So, and that's the same thing for females as well, because I do work with females, is, there's an optimal range for everything in your body. And so then there's always debates on what's the optimal range. But to give a simple example, a male, their testosterone can vary from like 200 to 300 at the low end to 900 to 1200 on the high end. So if you're a male and you're sitting around 300 or 400, you're still in optimal range. So you're still normal. But how do you think you're feeling? Because if you feel better at 800, 900 or higher, okay, you feel better. But if you're in the 300, you don't feel as good, but you're in the range. And so that's what has to be determined, just as one example. There's a lot more hormones. You have hormone precursors that help you to make hormones like pregnenolone, DHEA. Also, the test for that is DHEA sulfate. And these help you to make hormones. And so if those levels are low, it's an easy fix if you check them by you get over-the-counter supplements to fix that issue. The key, though, is if you're going to do anything like that, you need to know what the proper dosage is so that you don't overdo it. Because if you overdo it, then it just causes the gland to shut down faster and be more dependent on what you're taking externally. So that's why you have to really understand these concepts. And also nutrition is a really good player, along with sleep, to improve your hormones naturally. And that's one of the focuses that I help people with as well, because, the more natural you can stabilize your hormones, the better, because, you don't really want to go to therapy if you can avoid it, because that's a lifetime decision, just as a quick scenario.
Yeah, like hormone therapy, it would, does that
That's when
cause
you do external strategies, things like that.
That makes sense to me. I talk about that a lot. Like lifestyle choices they play a huge role, right?
Things that can disrupt hormones are going to be too much sugar in the diet, too many carbohydrates, too much alcohol, lack of sleep. If you're doing those things, and then if you do anything like illegal drugs or anything like that, you're just going to push things right into the toilet pretty quick, because the body can only handle that kind of adversity and stress for a certain period of time. And if you're not getting the right raw materials to help you make hormones from the nutrition, it's a double whammy. So when I was saying, it's 2% a year, so you lose 40%, that's in a perfect world.
Yeah.
But if you're out partying, staying out late, drinking a lot of alcohol, and eating on the run, and having processed food, that's what we have people now, especially males, they're having low testosterone in their late 20s, early 30s, which is historic because that's not typical. So just as another example.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of non-typical things in young people's health these days, just because of the food-like products that most of us or most of them consume on their way to adulthood.
It's really bad. I mean, you have all the, fructose is not very good for you, for your, for your liver, and then for your blood flow, and then other processes. But people have way too much sugar, and then you have high fructose corn syrup that has a higher ratio of fructose versus regular table sugar. Table sugar is 50% glucose, 50% fructose. High
Mm-hmm.
fructose corn syrups they can range from 55% to 70% being fructose and the other being glucose. And the problem with it affects the liver more. One of the ways you can tell if you're getting insulin resistance by too much sugar is checking your ALT level, which stands for alanine transaminase. And that's an easy thing to check because you can get that on any lab work with the physician. And if it's over 25, they've moved the range up to 40 now. It used to be less than that, but if it's over 25, then that just means that your liver can't handle the amount of sugar consumption and carbohydrate consumption that you're taking in. So you're moving in the direction of insulin resistance, which is going to lead to diabetes, as a quick example.
Yeah, I appreciate that breakdown and the mention of the allowance going up at the doc. Like, oh wait, now you can have as much as this, and you still should be fine. And I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, well, it's because so many people are out of range.
Yeah.
So they had to adjust it.
Or
cholesterol readings used to be 300, not 200,
yeah.
but they changed that to 200. Of course, I think that kind of got biased by the pharmaceutical companies to, prompt people to get on a statin drug. Statin drugs, by the way, are not good for hormones. It's not good at all. So if you're taking a statin drug, then you need to really keep an eye on your hormones because it does affect them in a negative way.
Yeah, because are those pretty much like diuretics? Do they cause you to like what about them?
Well, what a statin drug does is it prevents the liver from making cholesterol. That's what it's designed to do. So obviously it's going to lower your cholesterol. It doesn't do anything for triglycerides, which are the bigger factor. Triglycerides are fat in the bloodstream. That's a more dangerous situation. So that's why you want to monitor your triglycerides more so than anything, along with your glucose levels. And just because your glucose levels aren't reading high doesn't mean that you don't have insulin resistance going on. So the best way to know that is do a A1C, HbA1c reading to see what your insulin averages over a 3-month period to see how you're doing there. Because your glucose levels, just find out you're diabetic. You don't all of a sudden one day become diabetic with a high glucose reading. It accumulates over 10, 20 years. And that's from poor nutrition and poor, health standards, so to speak, as far as being efficient with what you're doing.
Yeah. So when someone is experiencing like those symptoms that you were talking about, because most people, they attribute it to lack of sleep or stress, the brain fog and all that. They were like, it's just because I'm stressed. It's just because. So what would you say would be like something that would trigger them to be like, well, maybe I should check my hormones?
Yeah. So actually, the easiest fix in general is just to get all your hormone levels checked. Now, you're typically not going to get that through, again, a regular doctor, your general practitioner, or, primary care physician. So you need to seek out somebody that specializes in hormone strategies. And so, like for me, I have my own group of medical people I work with. So, so I order the lab work to check all these different hormones to see what's not an optimal range. And so when we get the lab work back, then that's analyzed by 2 different medical groups to determine what the corrective protocols are going to be to put things back to where they need to be. And so the one medical group goes over nutrition and supplementation to help optimize what's in your lab work, what's not where it needs to be. And this includes more than just hormones, but that's one of the focuses. The other medical group would do the same, but if you did need a prescription, they would help you with a prescription. So if somebody's, say your testosterone is low and you look at your lab work and you find out your luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone are low, then that just basically means you're not getting enough the right hormone precursors to generate more testosterone in this example. So you can do different things to improve follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone nutritionally. Like we talked about before, it may just be pregnenolone and DHEA that could be a factor. You may need more zinc, a mineral that helps to make testosterone. There's different, selenium's another one that helps to make testosterone. So what you do, you see what these levels are. And if the luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone are low, then you can do a jump start with a product called enclomiphene. What this does, it tells the hypothalamus gland to tell the pituitary gland to tell, in this case, the testicles to make more testosterone. So as one example, and there's all kinds of different strategies, but I'm just using it as a quick example.
Sure.
But this prevents you from having to actually take external testosterone. I had a six-year-old guy, and he started taking clomiphene, and within about 2 months, took him off of it, and he was back to normal with his normal production of testosterone, and fixed the issue. But now he's also taken the correct raw nutrients of zinc and selenium, and then making sure his pregnenolone and DHEA are in good shape. He's getting enough of that so he can maintain where he's at, and along with getting quality sleep, and then he's exercising. Now, exercise, especially strength training, is really critical to maintaining hormone status. So, because you need the hormones to rebuild cells, and so when you're doing strength training, it's more effective than any other kind of training to keep your hormones more optimal.
Okay, that's for men and women.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. For strength training, like how long, how hard do you go at it? Like, is it? I know we're not bodybuilding strength training, but like, what would you say? Let's stick with the gentleman for right now. Maybe we'll have another conversation on the ladies next time.
Okay.
But especially, and then like what age range, like does that vary depending on how old they are, or how do you work through that with the guys?
Well, the good news with strength training, it doesn't matter what age you are. It's just what you need is the right kind of strategy and coaching to put together a program that's going to encompass hitting all the muscles the right way and also fit your schedule and make it easy to put in the schedule, and so you can be consistent with it. But generally, if you just do 30 to 45 minutes 3 to 4 days a week, which isn't a lot, but if you do it in a really structured manner, you're going to get a tremendous amount of benefits. So, but you can also get benefits from doing lightweight. It doesn't have to be heavyweight, because you're putting the body under stress. Sure. And anytime the body's under stress, the body has to adapt. This is called hormesis. Hormesis stands for what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So when the body goes through stress, exercise being one of them, it's going to escalate its ability to adapt to that stress. And so it makes everything work at a higher level. So it's going to tell the hormones, hey, we need more to rebuild cells to adapt to this stress. And that's why it works really well. But you also get hormone stability from fasting. It stimulates hormone, especially growth hormone. And obviously getting enough protein is important. So there's this accumulation of things, but the strength training, keeping it simple, training the legs, training the different muscle groups appropriately, you're going to create a nice looking physique and also get the best of both worlds by maintaining your hormone levels. And especially if you're doing it early on, because that way you keep them more stable. This actually helps to slow down the aging process.
I love that. I'm sure anybody would love that. So 2 things came to mind. One, like I know how important sleep is, right? So sometimes I'm like, if you have to choose between sleep and exercise, because you went to bed late, you got it early morning, go to work, blah, blah, blah. Like what would be like, what are your thoughts around that? Because sometimes
that's a very good question, because I've done this multiple ways, especially when I was in college. If you don't get enough sleep, there's no sense in doing resistance training that day, because your strength level is not going to be good. You didn't give the body enough time to recover. So you can do some cardio. That won't affect you too much. That'll allow you to burn some energy and, perk yourself up. But if I didn't get enough sleep that I normally would need, I go ahead and just take a day off from weight training, because it's not going to be very efficient. Now, you can still train if you want to, but I would definitely go lighter and have a mental understanding that you're not going to be as strong as you were the last time you trained. Because some people, they get affected by that mindset of, well, it's not, I'm weaker today. I don't understand it. But if you don't get enough sleep, that's 100% of the time one of the issues, that lack of food, and then high levels of stress.
And I know I share with people that exercise is a form of stress. So if you overdo it, you can actually counteract.
That's true too. If you get overtrained, you won't sleep as well. Okay. And again, everything has a point of diminishing returns. So the sweet spot, what I found after training for over 40 years now, is I keep my training regimen in 45 minutes. I don't really go much over that, because I just feel like for me, And also for my clients, they tend to get a little overtrained. So then you're not getting more benefit from it. Plus, you're sucking up time you could use on something else to manage your day better. You want to keep things very efficient so it's easy to be consistent and keep it in your schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely appreciate that. What are some of the, because it's funny because people will come and ask for help, but then they resist the help. So what are the biggest challenges that you found with some of your clients?
Well, again, the mindset is really important. So if somebody's not mentally ready to commit and make these changes, yeah, it's going to be pretty frustrating.
Mhm,
So they have to understand the mindset that, hey, it's not going to be perfect from the get-go. There's going to be setbacks. And I have to coach people on this because, they want everything to be perfect. And unfortunately, it just doesn't work that way.
mhm.
So you just first step is just getting started, and then you kind of work through the different issues that come up. And
Yeah,
most of it's a scheduling issue, unexpected things, emergencies. So they're going to happen, but don't let them derail you. You just need to, okay, step back, relook at everything, and then go right back at it. But again, having a consistent plan,
yeah,
you're going to get better results. Don't get down on yourself if it's not going as you anticipated, because
yeah,
most plans don't go as anticipated.
yeah,
So you have to keep that in mind.
yeah. Yeah, there's like the way I like to look at it is if it doesn't go as planned, there's like a different type of growth process in that, right? There's more of a mental growth process if you're able to turn that situation around and make the most of it or whatever. So, um,
Well, it's kind of
w-
the journey of life. You have
yeah,
a certain expectation, but then
hmm,
as you're going along, you get all these different bumps in the road. So you have to adapt to that as well. It's just a
hmm,
matter of figuring out what works for you and then
hmm,
being consistent with it. So that's another part of the journey is, okay, if I'm going to do resistance training, it works better for me to do 2 times a week during the week because of my schedule and then one day on the weekend. So I'm getting 3 days in. And if I get a
hmm,
little more time, maybe I'll throw in another workout in there, but at least I'm working in the direction of getting better benefits. Again,
yeah,
it wouldn't be perfect, but that's how you have to kind of view it. And don't get too stressed out about it either. It's not good to get stressed out about something you're trying to improve with your lifestyle. So you
hmm,
just got to step back and look at it. Okay, yeah, today didn't go well, so let me plan the rest of my week out or next 3 or 4 days out, and then see how good I can execute. And just focus on controlling the controllables, as they say.
yes, that's life itself as well
Exactly.
as being in the gym. um, when So you're saying it's just back to the hormone
Mhm.
conversation. Um, just in general, like the tip that I'm taking away is just go get them checked in general. Like
Yeah.
because knowing is half the battle. And in order to get the type of hormones checked, which is like all the ones that most general practitioners don't think about or consider because they haven't had enough education in it, they need to come through someone like you or who is specialized in hormone
Yeah,
health.
me or a medical professional,
Right.
because like the hormone panels that we utilize are going to cover, and I'll just give you a bunch of them to kind of understand how complicated it can get, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
also very beneficial. You have testosterone, you have free testosterone, you have estradiol, which is estrogen. You have your hormone precursors like pregnenolone, DHEA. Then you have other testosterone like dihydrotestosterone, which you want to manage that for a male because that can lead to prostate issues over time because it naturally increases. It leads to
Mm,
hair loss over time. So if a guy's going through hair loss, he needs to be checking his DHT level. Again, that
mm,
stands for dihydrotestosterone. You also need to be checking your IGF-1, which is your growth hormone release. You need to check your cortisol. It's a stress hormone. You need to be dialed in on your thyroid. So you have TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone readings. You have T3, T4. These are another parts of how your body converts to have
mm,
the thyroid. And the thyroid is important because it regulates your body temperature, your metabolism, how you're going to burn energy, and
mhm,
how you feel day to day. So that's
mhm,
another one. And let me think what else we have. You have sex hormone binding globulins, which affects your free testosterone for males, as an example. The females have it as well. What else we have? And the luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone. So as you can tell, I mean, there's even more than this.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of moving parts, but the key is to get them all synchronized the way they should be to be in optimal range. And you're going to feel pretty much bulletproof once that happens. And it's a delicate process to do. So you need to understand the nutritional aspects, the supplementation aspects. And then if things aren't connecting the right way, then you may need to look at doing external hormones to help improve your levels and put them in optimal range. The key is just getting enough to make it back into optimal range. A lot of guys tend to want to overdo it and take too much, and that causes all kinds of other issues because now it's creating, it'll raise your DHT level, which is going to cause hair loss. It's going to cause your estrogen to get higher, which is not good. That causes cardiovascular disease and also affects the prostate gland. Because those, that's the whole point of the matter is the more balanced it is, the more synchronized it is, the better. But when things get out of sync, it can get kind of ugly. And so guys that typically go to these TRT clinics for the quick fix or the cheaper option, they start going through a lot of issues, especially emotionally, because of how, if their estrogen gets too high, it affects your emotions. And then they start losing hair from the DHT, or they feel more aggressive because things are out of sync with the testosterone. And it's not really the testosterone that's doing it; it's the imbalances that are occurring from it being out of sync. So, and they're pretty easy fixes in general, but unless you're working with the right medical professional who knows the corrective protocols that need to be completed to balance these things, you're kind of guessing. And the one thing I found is you don't want to guess because that's not going to help you. I've seen guys take DHEA just because it's going to help. They felt, well, it'll help my testosterone, but they're taking a blind dosage. So if you take too much DHEA, which is an over-the-counter supplement, easy to get, and you take too much, it actually causes it comes from the adrenal gland. It'll cause the gland to start shutting down. So now you have to take more of it, and you're actually causing the gland to go in the wrong direction. You just want to nourish the glands so they perform better. That's the key.
I love that. What I especially like about that is, of course, the supplement industry is very unregulated, and we read this little thing or we hear this little thing, and we're like, "Ooh, I need to take that. Ooh, I need to take that," and it can be dangerous. It like natural stuff can contraindicate with meds that you're on, and it can like mess up the hormones. And I love the fact that you're very intentional about like this is knowing your levels so that you get the right dosage. And I imagine with working with the docs, if they are on some medications, they can manage the dose so that it doesn't affect the medication too, right?
Yeah, you just need to have the right medical team. So, for example, if guys found out, well, zinc is good for you. That's what you get from oysters, but you can also buy zinc to supplement, and it does help you make more testosterone. But if you take too much zinc, what it ends up doing, it starts to suppress your copper levels, and that creates a heavy metal imbalance, which heavy metals aren't going to be good for you either. So people don't think about these things. And it's an easy fix. If you get too much zinc in your system, you just got to take 2 milligrams of copper to help offset it and cut the zinc back, and it'll be right back in balance. So just, as another example.
Yeah. That's this kind of stuff that you can't really Google.
Yeah, well, you can, but you get all you got to wade through it all. And that's what, you can Google, or now you can. And one thing I'll say other than Google is if you just do AI, you need to be really careful with that because there's a lot of misinformation because the AI was extracted from information that was available anyways prior. And some of those studies, I wouldn't agree with because of what my own personal experience is. And so you need to double check and triple check what you're reading and learning. And then you want to just be cautious with it. So, and again, we're not trying to make everybody feel super uncomfortable or anything. It's just a matter, don't assume that it's going to do these things because that's what it says. Okay, you need to understand how does it function with everything else you have going on. That's why it's better to work with a professional that's been doing it for a number of years. So like I've been on hormone therapy since I was 48. And with what I know today, I wouldn't have done that. So what I am now, what I've been able to do is I've cut my dose in less than half of what I was taking when they first started me because of the misunderstandings and the conclusions of everybody fits one size. So these
Mm-hmm.
cookie cutter TRT clinics, which has a standard protocol of 200 milligrams of testosterone, and they put you on an estrogen blocker.
Mm-hmm.
That's a trouble spot. You don't want to go down that path because
Mm-hmm.
that's going to lead you to have more issues long term, which you're not going to want to have. And I've had to really work with a lot of people in that area because they get so messed up, but they didn't know any better. But they're also trying to do it on the cheap side, and you don't. When it comes to your health, you don't want to be doing things on the cheap side. Don't be eating cheap, trashy food. Eat quality whole food. I mean, just simple things. But
Mm-hmm.
if you do the things the right way, you can slow down aging, which slows down disease, which allows you to get more done longer, have a better health span and lifespan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It's an investment in your health, and that is one place to not cut corners. Because, yeah, go ahead.
Well, we know what happens when you cut. I mean, just look around the society. It's horrible. People in their 50s and 60s can barely get around because of
Yeah.
all the sugar content, all the carbohydrates, and then they have cardiovascular disease. You have all these statin drugs that have been around for 20, 30 years. We still have the same heart disease problem we had when we got started. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously the statins aren't solving the problem, and low cholesterol doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah.
Cholesterol is at the scene of the crime, but that doesn't mean that's the thing that's causing it. So most of the
Yeah.
studies now are showing that insulin resistance with high glucose and being pre-diabetic and high triglycerides are actually more detrimental factors that they're easier to fix than just worry about your cholesterol.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. Just even having conversations with people, some of their belief system is still from back when they used to preach about high sodium and high blah blah. And I'm not saying that high sodium is healthy or anything like that. It still has its place in health challenging, but you know how who was it? The fat industry, like, or the sugar industry hid that it was the sugars that was causing a lot of the health issues, and they blamed it on fat. And so a lot of people still trying to have low fat things, and it's just yeah.
Well, the fat thing was started by Ansel Keys. He decided that cholesterol was the villain. That's
Mhm.
because President Eisenhower had a heart attack. He was the medical guy on point, so he started
Mhm.
researching everything. And unfortunately, what happened is he made a conclusion it was cholesterol because that's what they see in the
Mhm.
when they do surgery and stuff. The blockage, but that's really wasn't. There's proof now that that wasn't the case, and the studies that were put together were manipulated. So
Mhm.
science isn't always science. It's not clear
Mhm.
cut. Okay,
Mhm.
so and I think people are learning that. But
Yeah.
so what happened was, okay, you want to eat low fat, higher carbohydrate. Unfortunately, what happened is because you go higher carbohydrate and you go low fat, but your insulin has to stay elevated all day to process the carbohydrates. And excessive insulin, the eating 5 and 6 meals a day is the worst thing you can do. It's going to age you like a rocket. It overtaxes the digestive system. You have insulin elevated, which is toxic to the system. Okay, because you don't have any more sensitivity because the body's getting
Mhm.
numb, even processing the stuff you're eating every 3 hours, which is typically
Mhm.
garbagey, processed food, quick sugar foods,
Yeah.
energy drinks, energy bars, which is just a crock of crap. I mean, and they don't make a good protein bar,
No.
but that's another thing. People, they get what they get told.
Yeah.
Well, they have a protein bar that's high in peanuts. Well, peanuts are the worst source of protein you can find. It's lower grade than soybean. So why would you even feel that would be good? Because that's what they tell you. It's
Yeah.
what marketing says. So,
Yeah. I love
and it
that.
also drives your hormones down. All this stuff drives your hormones down. It can't keep up with that. You
Yeah.
need fats for hormones, is my point. You
Yeah.
need cholesterol to allow the hormones to do their work to rebuild cells.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, it's not cholesterol. It's all the triglyceride stuff. It's all of that other stuff. And so I appreciate that you educate the clients that you're working with. And I also just wanted to point out a while back, Armin said when I was 48. Look at his face. He doesn't even look that much older than 48. I love it. That
Yeah, I'm
shows a lot.
60, so
I want to be like you when I grow up. I love it, and that proof is in the pudding, right? If you understand that, you work with the people, like that's why people get coaches in specific areas of their life that, because we can't know everything as one person. So we were designed to work together. So I would go with you if I have like hormone questions, and I would go with, just people who specialize in the thing. So I appreciate that you educate people, which is going to help, how when we do ourselves justice, we kind of inspire other people to do the same thing too. So
Yeah.
the fact that you're educating people and they're like, I am so much better, go see this guy. So I like that.
Well, it saves you a lot of headache,
Yeah.
time, and then a
Yeah.
lot of unknowns because
Yeah.
I've had to filter through a lot of this.
Yeah.
I still have to do it every day with new supplements that come to the marketplace. You have these age reversal supplements that are coming to the marketplace. I'm experimenting with those. I do a lot of research on them, and then I can just tell the client, "Hey, if you're going to do this, here's what I experienced. So it's up
Mm-hmm.
to you, but here's the expectation for it." So you can get things done a lot more effectively and get what you want,
Mm-hmm.
if you find the right coach or the right medical team.
Yeah.
Now, again, it boils down to the finances as well, which you can afford, because some of these medical teams are, extremely expensive because they're in high demand, because people that make a lot of money, they want to live longer, and these strategies are what they're interested in. So there's a premium for that too. So
It makes sense. I mean, it makes sense. A brain surgeon gets paid a lot more than a general practitioner because it's that specialization. So
yeah.
it makes sense to me. We're probably about at time, maybe even a little bit over. But before we chow for the day, I would love to. It's going to be in the description, but just share how people can get in touch with you. Um, best. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can find me on social media, and I also have my website, Arman ARMAN Eckelbarger ECKELBARGER.com, ArmanEckelbarger.com. That's a website I have. I have EliteExecMethod.com,
Mhm.
EliteExecMethod.com. So you can connect with me there. Again, social media. I have a YouTube channel. So if you just do a search on Google, I've got to pop up. There's a lot of stuff that I've done over the years. So,
Yeah,
and you can kind of find me that way. So
I love it. Thank you so much, Armin, for joining and sharing all of your knowledge and just this conversation is like, I thought I knew a lot, but I see there's so much more I need to learn. So I
yeah,
love
that
it.
probably won't get any. It's only going to get worse, be my opinion. But there's good things coming down the pipe. So
Yeah.
just be encouraged by how you can really improve your health and
Yes.
your lifespan, and also how you look too.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you so much, Armin. Um, really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Uh, Make sure you tune in, you like, subscribe. We always have these great, wonderful conversations educating you on how you can be your best, healthiest self. So I will see you next week with another great conversation. Ciao for now. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Hope you enjoyed the show and got a lot of good information. Be sure to like, subscribe, tap the bell so you know when we air again. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Enjoy the rest of your week.